another spirit interview. This time the spirit, it's a male, and he has decided that he wants to be attached to this really cute little stuffed dog. I mean, stuffed bear, and it has a little Scotty dog attached to it. The Scotty dog is missing the tip of his ear because it's hard. I guess part of the ear broke off a little bit, but otherwise the bear is in really good condition. No tears, no stains, no smells. And all I know of the spirit is that his name is Lester. So let's learn about Lester. Okay, so Lester. Now, you prefer to be called Les. Okay. That is so corny. He said less is more, meaning shortening his name to Les. Corny. He's like guffawing over here. He just thinks it's hilarious. Okay. So now, are you actually of Scottish descent? You are. Is that why you've been like eyeballing that bear for a while? He said it's about time you got to me, girly. I've been busy. He's laughing. He says, I know you have. It's alright. So already he's a kidder. You know, he just gives you a hard time just to, yeah. He's a goofball. He is. He's a goofball. Alright, so now he's a more modern spirit. He was born in the 20th century. Oh, were you born in the 19th century, but you lived most of it in the 20th? Okay. He was born in 1879. Oh, you did serve in World War One. Okay. Now, were you already in the military at that time? Okay. Yeah, he joined up when he was 18. Were you career military? Now, are you American? Okay. So basically you did your whole career in military and then you retired. Okay. Did you die in the 20s or the 30s? He died in 1928. That's still kind of young. Something with the throat and the lungs. He wasn't a smoker, though. I'm guessing from the time period when he died, was this like complications from chemical attacks during World War One? Might have been complications from mustard gas. Because his throat was raw. So you were corporal? Now, was that the rank when you died, or was that during the war? During the war, you were corporal. Where were you originally from? Waukegan? Did I hear that right? Waukegan? Okay. So you were kind of like a small town boy. He said Main Street, USA. Are you a Disney fan? Are you? Oh, you have. So you wouldn't have been that spirit that they caught walking down the CCTV. No. He says he has gone to Disney. He's gone to a lot of the, around the world since he's died. And he does like going to Disney. He says he knows all about Disney. He's been to the parks. I mean, he goes into movie theaters. He's watched, he's up on all the current events. He knows everything that's going on. He was a very smart man. I mean, he was like, he had a personality like larger than life, big jokester, good time Charlie type. But underneath all that, he was always very thoughtful. He was very, I would say, cunning. It's like he had this like life of the party exterior going on so that it would distract you from how smart he really is. And he is very smart. Not genius smart, not Stephen Hawking smart, but he was what? I would say it's more street smart, savvy, street savvy, more so than book learning. But he made it a point to know what there was that needed to be known. So if he needed to use it to his advantage, he had it. But I'm not saying he was like a blackmailer or anything like that. He never extorted or blackmailed anything. But he would store up information. And he was really good at putting pieces together, even if he only had like half the information. And honestly, when he was in the war, I think that served his company well, because he would, not only would he get snippets of things, but because he was such a likable guy, higher ups would tell him things that normally wouldn't be privileged to him, information. And I think that information that he used helped save, not only, keep him alive during the war, but a lot of his men as well. And he's proud of that. He is. He was like, I wasn't able to save everyone. He was like, but all the ones that I was able to save, he was like, I'm thankful. Yeah, he knew every single one of his men, and he knew all their stories. He made it a point. And he said, really? I'm sorry. I'm going to pause this while my cat throws up all over my furniture. Okay, so I think my cat is done ruining my upholstery right now. So let's get back to Les. So anyway, what Les was saying before we were so very rudely interrupted was that all of their memories, he holds every single one of them. He said so as long as he's still here, they will never die. Okay. Now, did you ever he never got married. Did you have any children? Because let's face it, you don't have to be married to have children. Did you have any children? Are you sure? Did you go rousting on over in France? I figured you did. Are you sure you don't have any kids? He's positive. Okay. That's just wrong. He said those girls were professionals. They knew what they were doing. Les, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Okay. Moving on from your romps. When he got back from the war, he didn't go back home, but he was in New York City. Is that where the boat landed when you got back? New York? Okay. He was there for a while though. He was there for a few months. Was it because of the injuries that you had? It wasn't because of the injuries that he had. He was there for a couple of months. What were you doing in New York? You didn't live there. I mean, that wasn't your permanent home. They shipped you over to England? Why'd they ship you back over to England? Oh. See, I knew his cunning had a lot to do with this. His higher-ups noticed his cunning, too. They noticed how he would gather information. One of the generals noticed how he would gather information and put it together. So when he was in New York, he was actually meeting with some higher ups in the army intelligence. And they sent him over to England to work with their intelligence. Were you a spy? He was working in communications. They were actually monitoring. They were monitoring Europe, what was going on over there. Both England and the United States. And they were actually working together. They were working together, but he had like a separate mission, which was he would share most of the information that he would get with, and I'm sure this happened the same way with them too. He would share most of what he would get, what he considered the most pertinent Allied information with them. But he would send all of his information back to the United States. So he would withhold some of it from Britain. But they were he was there monitoring communications. I don't know that he was out in the field because he was in Britain a lot. I don't see him going into Europe. No, he didn't. He was stationed solely in Britain, but they were monitoring communications. And they were watching the boats too. I see him like at a dock watching dock workers. Because after the war, they trusted Germany as far as they could drop kick them. And they were watching anything that was German or Austrian, Hungarian. They were watching all of those. Any ships that were coming in and out, they were watching those as well. But I'm not sure exactly what they were looking. I don't know if they exactly knew what they were looking for. But they were watching every little thing. And that's why he was there. Because he was the one that would put the puzzle pieces together. So he would, they'd get this communication or they'd see this down at the docks, and he managed to put pieces together. And that was a thing. I mean, he obviously died before World War II, but that was a thing about America and the isolationism that allowed conditions to kind of accelerate in Germany. And Italy with fascism, because the United States contained itself within its own borders and didn't want to involve itself in political affairs overseas. And while I'm sure people thought that the government was keeping an ear to the wall and was watching everything, there's like this whole belief that we were completely kind of like shut off other than just watching what was going on, but that's not true. Ever since the end of World War I, we actually did have a toe over the line into Europe, and we knew a lot more than people thought that we did. There were a lot more backroom operations that were going on than people thought we were doing. It wasn't complete isolationism. Outwardly, it looked like that. And as much as I hate to say it, I think there were warning signs, and we were getting warning signs about impending attacks on the United States. Well, there were warning signs because we had, before we even entered the war, we had U-boats cruising the East Coast. I mean, the event that got us into the war was Pearl Harbor. But before that, we had U-boats patrolling our coast, our East Coast. So it could be that Germany had been on to us, that we were not complete isolationists. And that's why they were sending these U-boats over here to put spies on our shore to find out what we knew about what they were doing. Which would make sense. They weren't being proactive, they were being reactive. But yeah, he was like the puzzle master. People would bring him all these little snippets of information. He would put his own information together, and he would give part of the puzzle that was most pertinent to Britain. Well, he would share it with Britain, but he was sending everything to the United States. Everything. And we had been doing that since World War I. We were a lot more involved over in Europe than people thought we were. Yeah. He's just sorry that he died as early as he did. In a way, he kind of feels responsible because he died before the invasion of Warsaw and all this other stuff. Because he thinks, because he kept his secrets so closely guarded that when he died, there really wasn't anyone to pass it on. Exactly, you know, his connection, his network, his all this other stuff. So when he died, that lead, that thread of the tapestry was just completely broken, and it left a gap. And he feels guilty that he did not do more to include like an assistant or a partner or something so that gap wouldn't be there. And he does feel guilty about that. I mean, inevitably, we could not have avoided a World War II. And he knows that, but it doesn't assuage his guilt, you know what I mean? He just thinks that maybe if he had passed on his network and his secrets, maybe there would have been less deaths. Maybe there would have... Well, they were going to send them to the camps anyway. I mean, it's not like just because you pass on certain information, the U.S. was going to, and I hate to say this because I do love my country, but it's not like we were going to rush over there and liberate all the camps. We didn't do anything until they literally dragged us into it. But it still weighs on him. There's like, I can feel this heaviness in my chest. And it's from him. Well, Les, is there anything else you want to say? No? Is there anything I missed that you want me to mention? No? Okay. Wrap it up? We're going to wrap this up? Alright. Well, that's Les. he's a decent, moral human being. If he saw somebody in trouble, he could not stand by and do nothing. And that's why he has such a heavy emotion on him when he talked about the Jewish people being routed out of Warsaw, and he saw all that. After he had passed on, he couldn't leave, and he saw all this happening. He did die. He was on his way home, and he died on his way home from Britain. He died on the ship. And I think that's another reason why I see New York a lot. Because I think he's buried in New York somewhere. Because the ship on the way back docked in New York, and I think he's buried there. He had information. He had to come back because of his throat, but he had important information with him. Stuff that he didn't want to transmit. And he died before he was able to deliver it. What happened to it? So it was put with your things in storage and no one ever opened it? They knew you were like a spy and no one ever opened your things and found that information? That's another reason why he has guilt. He was like a day or two out from port. He was like, if I had managed to live another 48 hours, I could have given them that information. And that's why he has so much guilt. It's like he has so much guilt. I mean, not that he can control his death, but he has so much guilt that he died and that information didn't get where it needed to go. It's literally like he wants to throw up. That's how guilty he feels. And I don't know what it was. But to be honest, again, we knew all this stuff was going on, but it wasn't until we were actually attacked. And Americans lost their lives that we went into the war. So I don't know how pertinent that information was. It wasn't about an attack. He died way too soon for that. Could have been something about what was going on, the rise of the powers over in Europe, but again, even if we had that information, I don't know seriously if that would have changed everything. But he just feels so guilty about it. Well, that's it for Les. He really doesn't have anything more to say. So, I've actually had somebody contact me that they are interested if I had any military spirits. So I don't know if Lester is going to be up for sale. If he is, then he will have a link. And if not, then I guess this is the only time you're going to hear Lester's story. So anyway, thank you for tuning in to another spirit interview, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.